what we said a lot during the stream was this is like the final level for Kelly is hitting shots, because everything else that we have wanted from him. I did see real time as well was saying, Oubre beating the Kyle/Derek.
The difference is when real time does it, I think he's just having fun. No, Phil wants us to sit up here and say we know nothing about basketball and we're wrong about.
We've said quite a bit recently. I know I have. I know you two certainly have. Kelly is not only doing the things that he's good at, he's doing the things that he historically has struggled to do for whatever reason, whether it's reading the game, whether it's just having too much tunnel vision, wanting to hunt his own shot, having too much confidence in himself at times, whatever it is. We've been praising him consistently for defensive effort, praising him consistently for passes and making correct reads. And I think we saw more of that tonight. There were a lot of extra passes and, hey, I'm going to hit this guy on a drop off, or swing type situations. Like Kelly is doing that more often. It's something that he's talked about in press conferences that he's gone over with the coaching staff, who are saying, hey, Kelly, look, you create a lot. You draw attention as a scorer. Your drives are impactful. Now look at what they could do for other people. And as I've said repeatedly on the show, I give Kelly credit for internalizing what they've said to him and actually carrying that out on the court. Because it's one thing, right, to go over film and see, oh, hey, this guy is open. And it's another thing to change the way you're playing. It's another thing to actually make those passes. And so Kelly has done that. Kelly has been a more engaged defensive player. I think his hands have been active. I think he's been better off the ball. And then tonight, as I said, this is the final level. Like Kelly has struggled to make threes for the better part of this entire season, frankly.
And most of his career.
Yeah. And since he came back from the bicycle incident, we'll call it, he has not shot the ball well from deep. He's done a lot of other things well, but not that. Well, when he hits threes like this, he just becomes an absolute bear to guard, because if he doesn't make threes, you just sell out to stop the drive. You sag off him and say, we're okay living with that. If he hits some threes, he's already a dangerous enough slasher, and he's doing the playmaking stuff, that he becomes a super valuable offensive player. So I'm not expecting him to shoot like he did tonight, right, where he's hitting logo threes to end quarters and things like that. But
I forgot about that.
When he hits enough threes just to keep the defense honest, that is a world of difference for him specifically.
The one play that sticks out to me, and it's a stupid, mundane play, but when he catches the ball on the wing and he has that contested three-pointer with 15 left on the shot clock, and he makes that simple swing pass over to Tobias for an open corner three. Was it Tobias?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Tobias.
I think Tobias missed it by a lot, but it doesn't matter. The pass was
play,
great.
I don't care
when
about the shot.
When he's making those kinds of passes, that is a version of Kelly that you can buy into easy. And it's one thing to say, yeah, he made a bunch of threes, yada, 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 got the free throw line. Those plays, those decisions, that is how you change the narrative of your career. And I get it. If you're someone like Phil, who maybe he's believed in Kelly for a long time.
He has.
You want to get up here and tell us how stupid we are. That's fine. But really the key is there were 30 NBA GMs who over the summer said this guy isn't worth more than a max contract. The key for me...
Minimum contract, you mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, he's also not worth more than a max contract, but they specifically said that he wasn't worth more than a minimum contract. Two things. One, I don't think all of them were wrong too. It's because of plays like this where he's not making that extra pass, where he's not making that swing pass, where he is inefficient throughout the course of his career because the three-pointer's not going in and because the shot quality is low enough. But two, if he has grown, and look, my bar of if is always higher. Like I need to see a large sample size to truly be convinced. We're talking a little bit about shooting variance and how you can react to that too quickly during the live stream. But I have a pretty high bar to change my prior evaluation. That being said, if he has turned a corner and figured things out, how about give him credit? Because I don't think we, in our evaluations, were wrong of who he was coming into the season. I don't think NBA GMs were wrong of who he was coming into the season. If he has bought in and he's making that extra pass and he's making that more committed defensive presence, give him credit. Great job, Kelly. I love success stories. 100%. I love players redefining who they are when they're 27 years old. And that's what I'll say too. Like, I think, because Kyle and I were pretty critical of his game. They think that we have something against Kelly. No, Kelly seems like a great guy. And he seems like
he's a
good
very,
guy to have
very
in the locker
affable.
room. Yeah, easy to get along with. I just don't like some of the decisions he makes. So if he turns around those decisions, good on him. And tonight he was on fire.
And the important thing, you brought up that extra pass. The important thing to me is not that he made that one. It's that he's consistently been making that for, I want to say, like a few weeks now. Like this is a sustained run of play. This is not a one-off like, oh, Kelly made some nice passes. He has been making good reads for a while. And for it to come after he has had these talks with Nick, with members of the coaching staff, with frankly his teammates, to get through to him. Again, it's always one thing to hear it, right? And to have the conversations. You guys at home probably have plenty of people in your life who might be still with you in your life, or maybe you push them aside in your life who you had conversations with, you thought you identified problems, and then they did the same stupid, dumb shit that they've always done. Kelly deserves an abundance of credit for, look, all the narratives existed about him for good reason. As Derek said, he was a minimum guy coming into the year for a reason. For long stretches of this year, he has worked and put in actual sweat equity and played in a way to try to dispel some of that stuff so that somebody, whether it's the Sixers, whether it's another team this summer, is going to give him a bigger chance, a bigger contract, a bigger opportunity. And he 100% deserves credit for putting himself in a position where the Sixers are probably now going to be in a tough spot this summer. Like there are a lot of people around here who want Kelly back, and I think for good reason. And the big remaining question to me is, well, what do you get out of Kelly with Joel, right? Like, do you get the proper restraint, or are you still living with kind of the wild act of Kelly sometimes? But look, absolutely no complaints about him tonight or really at all recently. I think, as I keep saying about him as well, I love that he just comes with the same approach and mentality every night. Sometimes that means you have to live with a 4 for 17 or just an inefficient half or whatever it is. But I like that he might miss 6 in a row, but that 7th shot, he's putting it up because he believes in himself. Those are the type of players that can win you playoff games as role players.
If you look at what he's done, and we talk about the good things, and he'll sprinkle in those bad ones, these bad games, Cleveland being one of them the other night. But he bounces back in this when he comes back and he has this type of performance. And this is the type of performance as I was at home and watching these guys before the season started and their assessment of Kelly Oubre. And then when the game started, he was rolling. They had 4 players averaging 20 points at the beginning of the season. He was one of them. And of course, the accident happens. He comes back and he really didn't get back to that place. He would have those games that sporadically showed up in the good way. And now over this stretch where Maxi's been out for 4 games at one point, Tobias Harris misses a couple of games because he's dealing with the flu and some other things. Embiid obviously out for as long as he has been out, but he healed cold. Oubre off the bench, healed starting. Now they swap roles. Lowry comes in, Payne, all of these changes. And the one thing that we have seen, though, as guys have, again, been in and out of the lineup, is he has been consistent with his play. Same type of play. It's just a matter of what the results are going to be. So now when you look at it, now after tonight, 7 games left on the season, and hopefully Embiid coming back over these next 7 games at some point, Maxey getting back after missing tonight with the hip, and you wonder, is this going to be the same thing that you saw in the beginning that disappeared in that middle? And when you do get these guys back for this stretch run here for this final regular season games and then go into the play-in game and then the postseason, can you get this same type of Kelly Oubre? Yes, he's going to make those mistakes, but you know who he's going to be passing to now also? It's not going to be Mo Bamba or Paul Reed. It's going to be Joel Embiid who's out there. Yes, sometimes it will be those other 2, but now he's going to have Embiid potentially out there with him to make those passes to feel better about it. And you know who's also going to hit him on those cutting across the baseline? Joel Embiid is going to not hesitate and make that pass.
We saw a ton of that.
Exactly. So those backdoor cuts that he's going to get along that baseline or slashing in the middle when that double team is on the strong side and he's coming weak side to find that empty spot in that defense, he's going to be the beneficiary of it because sometimes others are not going to be the ones that they may trust as much. But he has been phenomenal in that decision-making. Now the three-point shooting is there. You just have to put it together. It doesn't have to be in form of 32 points. Sure, 1 in a series or whatever, or these games down the stretch, but just the ability to do what everybody in the league knows he can do, score the basketball. You add that on with that playmaking, And then he's a tough cover, and that makes them that much more difficult to defend in a half-court set and even in transition when they're running the floor.
And by the way, when you say, he's a proven scorer, it's true, but he also needs to be efficient. And that goes back to what Kyle was talking about
That's
the
what Phil
playmaking.
asked. Yeah.
About the playmaking. Well, historically, he has been very inefficient, and he has been, frankly, inefficient for most of the last couple of months without Embiid. But what Kyle goes back to when he's talking about the playmaking, and I think this might be the best playmaking stretch of Kelly Oubre's career. I'd have to go back through and go through the game log, but it feels pretty confident that is true. Part of playmaking isn't just making a play for your others. It's also getting yourself out of bad shots. And too often he will force things where a dump-off pass or a kick-out pass was the better option. That impacts not only your assist totals, but also your field goal percentage and your efficiency. So if he is making better decisions with the ball, if he is driving the rim with his head up, if he has, real good vision, or at least better vision than he has historically throughout the career, it'll make him a more efficient player, and it'll create opportunities for his teammates. Again, the shooting's great. How many threes did he make on the night? It was
6. 6 of 11.
You don't expect that every night. Would like for him to make 35 to 40% of his open catch and shoot threes. Not all of his threes, but open catch and shoot. You need to be in that 35 to 40 to play alongside of Embiid. Outside of that, though, the key to me isn't he's not going to drop 32 all that often. I don't even need him to do it once in a playoff series. I just need him to make good decisions with the ball to keep his individual efficiency up and to keep the ball moving for his teammates.
And Coach Lowell Ricketts points out again, Oubre's defensive effort has been great.
Throughout the year, beginning was great. Last month or so has been great. There's maybe a little dip in maybe January and February.
And I think, and that wasn't just him too. That was the whole team went through a long.
But for the most part throughout the year, I think it's been a positive more often than I expected.
For sure.
Yeah, 2 nice strips tonight. That one at half court, Gary Trent, he plucked him at half court, went for the dunk, and then he had another good one a little bit later. So the defensive effort has certainly been there for sure for Kelly Oubre. Need this type of performance, and hopefully they can get that going forward and into the playoffs.
We all silly like the mayor.